Combining all this evidence, there really has been no change. The evidence against Clair remains completely overwhelming. He had a connection to the crime scene. He had opportunity to commit the crime. He was seen in the vicinity of the victim's house on the night of the murder. He was seen with blood on his hand after coming from the vicinity of the victim's house. He was seen with the victim's stolen property in his possession on the very night of the murder. And then to top it all off, he made the statements that you've all heard, the tape recording, where he makes statements that only a guilty man would make. As we reopen this case, as with any case, we're not looking for any particular result except for to find the truth. If truth and evidence points towards innocence, it's the last thing we want is for an innocent man to spend a day longer in jail. We have instances in our office's history, turned up evidence of such cases. It's rare, but it does happen. It has happened. And Tony Rackauckas has always reacted very strongly when presented with that kind of evidence and insisted that our prosecutors move with great speed to have an innocent man released.
And they came back and they told me that they thought he was innocent. By the way, these are people that start out thinking that, that this whole idea of Dwayne McKinney is innocent is a scam.
And in the rarest of moves, Rackauckas stepped aside, clearing the way for McKinney's immediate release.
You know, despite his career, despite his position, he was willing to stand up and do the right thing.
Justice at last.
So in this case, as with any case, if evidence points towards innocence, that's going to be explored. And if the innocence interpretation becomes well supported by evidence, such that we have serious doubts about the guilt of a person who's been convicted or incarcerated, we're going to act on that information. And that's true in this Clair case. As we've looked through the evidence, we've had an open mind toward it. But the same way as it pointed the jury towards guilt, it has pointed us towards guilt. It points inexorably towards one individual, and that individual is Kenneth Clair.
No. If he was not guilty, I would not want him in prison, but he is guilty. Because of the evidence. Because of the tapes. Because people don't say things like, ain't no blood on my hands no more.
If Mr. Clair wasn't guilty, I would be the first to petition for his release. Just because his semen wasn't there doesn't exonerate him from the crime. He was not convicted of a sexual assault. He was convicted of a burglary, all right, that had gone wrong. And he had a history of being a burglar. Eventually you're going to run into somebody and there's going to be a confrontation. To my sister, all right, she would have done anything to protect those kids. You know? So I do believe Mr. Clair did it. There's no doubt in my mind. I think the jury got it right. I think and feel, right, if the trial court had gotten it wrong, one of those other judges or someone that was reviewing this case with all these different reviews over all these years would have sent something back down to the trial court and say, listen, this guy's innocent, or you guys don't have enough evidence to, to support this. That has never happened. There's never been a question by one of the judges about the evidence that convicted Mr. Clair.
We remain open. If further evidence is presented to us, we are certainly going to take a careful, objective look at it. But to date, everything we've been presented with is insufficient to raise any kind of substantial doubt at all about his guilt. Yes, we've heard what the defense is saying, and we are not convinced. It's the same thing, really, that they've been saying for 30 years. This is a person who just doesn't seem to want to ever admit to his wrongdoings. Well, that's not a requirement. He can be proved guilty just on the basis of evidence independent of his own admissions.